all my fellas, all my fellas, all my fellas, all my fellas. Assalamualaikum guys, today we watching ttte.
The cold wind blew, and the sky was already beginning to glow with the approach of the dawn. Down the quiet rails, a single steam engine hissed along at a breakneck pace. The engine was in British Rail green, and pulled a single coach with a brake van screeching along behind. Oliver huffed and puffed loudly as he rushed along. He'd been stuck waiting in an old siding for a late-night goods to pass. The goods had been hours late, and he did not want to risk being seen by diesels. He'd been stuck on a disused branch for weeks, listening to the diesels growl as they looked for a runaway steam engine. Now was the time to make a run for Sodor. But with the sun rising, Oliver knew he wasn't going to make it to his next hiding spot before the dawn. That meant he might be caught, and his run for freedom would be for nothing.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Tittered Isabel, his coach.
Schreiber, you're not gonna make it.
Oliver said.
Indeed. We might need to find a different hiding spot. And fast.
Just as the sun began to shed its golden rays on the tops of church steeples, Oliver hissed into a disused shunting yard. Weeds had taken over the tracks, and the station sat closed, with boards on its windows and graffiti on its walls. It felt very eerie, but with the sun almost up, it would have to do. The driver and fireman changed to the points, and Oliver, with Isabel and Toad, slipped into the yard. They hid in the furthest siding on the main line. Trees and bushes had grown thickly here, and a derelict engine shed gave further cover. The fireman dropped Oliver's fire quickly.
Just as well we stopped. We're almost out of coal.
Do you think it'll be enough to get us to Sodor?
Oliver asked worriedly.
Oh, I don't know,
said the fireman gravely.
We'll need to shore some more. We've gotten shell 4 already. We can't fail now.
The engine crew quickly placed rubbish on and around Oliver to better keep him hidden while they went out to find extra coal.
We'll be back soon, old boy. Hopefully someone will have some coal to spare.
Then they left. Isabel and Toad fell asleep after a while. Oliver, however, couldn't sleep so easily. Soon, the sound of diesels running past on the main line could be heard, growling as they rumbled past. He kept a careful watch, listening for a sound that would mean they'd been spotted. But it didn't take long before Oliver drifted off to sleep as well. The sound of a robin twittering in a nearby tree could be heard between the growling purrs of diesels.
This place looks good.
Oliver woke at the start. The voice was not his crew or even Toad's. It was accompanied by a deep rumbling of a diesel engine. 2 of them. Oliver peered through the rubbish that was piled up his front, looking out. There were 2 diesels. One was a small shunter, and the other was a larger mainline diesel. Between them was a long scratch train, sitting in the yard off the main line. They were only 2 tracks away. Oliver bit on his tongue, trying to remain as silent as he could. The shunter spoke up.
You couldn't have picked a cleaner yard. Sitting here, this scrap will fall apart before we can get it to the scrap yard. It's off the main line, and you know how our controller will have a fit if we block the main line. Heck, he might toss us on the scrap pile if we do that.
The other diesel grumbled.
Yeah, so why are we leaving our haul of scrap here again? Cause the scrapyard you want to go to has cheered us out of hundreds of pounds many times before. I am sure another place will give us more for this junk. If you insist, then we'll take some of this junk and see what other places will pay, and we'll go to the place that will pay the most.
The big diesel rumbled back and looked at the scrap train.
We should fill these trucks up a bit more to look like we have more to bring in. These trucks are hardly loaded.
Well, lucky you. My driver brought a cutting torch. We'll just cut some extra off this kettle and add it to the trucks.
Oliver gasped silently as he heard the hiss of a cutting torch, followed by the sudden loud screaming of the engine being cut up. He couldn't see this engine, as the big diesel obscured his sight, only being able to see the sparks hitting the ground. He closed his eyes and tried hard to ignore it, but it was not possible. The screams carried on for what felt like forever. Eventually, the sound of diesels departing could be heard, a few trucks rattling behind them. The screams stopped and slowed into a series of pained moans. Oliver felt a small comfort that Isabel and Toad seemed to still be sleeping, somehow able to have slept through the screams. He supposed where they were. Such noises were more muffled and less audible to wake them.
Hey, you!
A voice called. Oliver opened his eyes. The voice was not of his crew. The only other owner of the voice had to be the scrap engine. Nervously, Oliver turned and looked over at the engine. It was a rust-covered Ivet. Its tender was missing, and the amount of rust almost obscured its once bright black livery. The engine looked over at Oliver and sighed.
You poor thing.
He said slowly.
I truly feel sorrow for you.
Oliver looked puzzled.
Sorrow? How could you feel sorry for me? You're on a scrap train with... those horrible diesels. And they cut parts of you off.
I've made my peace. That is the end, dear engine. I feel sorry that you are where you are now, stuck in hiding on a railway that has thrown us all away.
Oliver felt nervousness creep into his boiler. He began to worry this engine would call attention to him. But he needn't worry, as the engine then added hastily.
Don't worry, I won't tell them about you. You are very well hidden, and those engines only care about the scrap on this train. They won't dare look on your way. Besides, don't know how much longer I have myself.
What do you mean?
The old engine wearily looked back up at Oliver. He didn't say anything for a moment. Oliver felt he could tell what he was about to say just by the look in his eyes.
I've spent so many years drifting away. It's taken a toll on me. Soon, there won't be enough of me to wake up. It'll be the end. Forever.
A chill ran through Oliver's frames. He remembered the stories of what old engines felt just before they passed away. Those that were lucky enough to be spared being alive when the cutting began. How gradually engines would first feel pain in their bodies as the rust set in. Then gradually, that pain became less and less. Physical sensations would fade shortly after. An engine would become tired and want nothing more to do than just close their eyes and rest. And then, in a blink, they'd be gone, leaving a smoke box door in its place. The old engine coughed and brought Oliver's attention back.
What's your name, youngster?
Oliver. And what's yours?
Howard.
The old engine said. Isabel moaned.
We're trying to rest. Do you want to get us caught?
Howard blinked in surprise.
What? Who said that? I thought we were alone.
No,
Oliver said quickly.
I'm here with my coach Isabel, and a brave friend named Toad. We're escaping.
Howard
Mhm.
sighed heavily.
Oh, dear. You are that engine the Diesels talk so much about. Rumors one of us is fleeing scrap. I don't wish to spoil your hopes, Oliver, but there is nowhere to go. The northern region is south of the east, and your home of western regions have thrown us to the side. Why do you flee?
Because there's a place where steam engines are safe. The northwestern region, Sodor.
We're going there, Mr. Howard.
Toad said from the back.
We hear that railway's looking forward to keeping steam engines in service.
Howard looked away, his face still gloomy.
Sweet thought.
No.
It's not possible. All the controllers have gotten an unanimous Diesels are the way
Sorry for
forward,
many
and that's
pauses.
such a long trip, especially for a tank engine such as yourself. Doubt you're in very good condition for working life, Oliver, given the state of our railways.
Oliver felt indignity rising in his boiler. Sodor was his last hope, and while he knew his condition was a little worse for wear, he was certain he'd make it.
I might be rough, but Sodor is a haven for steam engines. Those engines pull actual trains, and they're taken care of no matter how rough of a state they're in.
But the Diesels...
We read in a newspaper that Sodor will never be like this.
Oliver snapped.
My driver and fireman read in the paper that the famous Flying Scotsman is visiting there, and the controller made a statement saying his railway will never become like the mainland England. That is why we're going there. It's hope. Something you've got none to give.
The old engine looked at the enraged tank engine and sighed again, looking down at his buffers.
You are partially right. I have no hope. But it's only for myself and my state. That controller on that island doesn't indeed sound like a wonderful person. To invite Scotsman, a preserved steam engine, he must value preservation.
He then paused and looked over to Oliver.
I must have a little hope that some of us steam engines will survive, so long as there are people who see value in us. I do hope you are correct, Oliver, and that if you do make it, if you would cherish that opportunity, you'll be another very lucky few who defy the world and make it.
Oliver suddenly felt sorry that he'd lost his temper. This poor engine, who'd been cut up while he was still alive, still held out hope that he'd survive, even if he had no more hope for himself.
Anyways, it's late now, and you are to make it. You'll need plenty of rest for it.
Alright, I'm sorry I snapped, Howard. Just, none of the engines on my old line felt I'd make it.
The old engine sighed and coughed a moment, his lips pulling back in a small, faint smile.
It's alright. Just keep that energy when you really need it. Show any doubters why you are a survivor, but never forget to take your time and enjoy the time you have, like I'm going to.
And with that, the engine yawned and closed his eyes. Oliver stayed awake a moment longer, listening to the engine snore. Soon the sound put him to sleep, with Isabel and Toad following suit not long after. Oliver was woken by the sound of diesel engines. They had come back. He turned to look at Howard and gasped. Instead of a face, all that greeted Oliver was an empty smoke box. Oliver felt terrible. Even without a fire, he felt colder than he'd ever been before. To have spoken to an engine one day, and then see them just gone the next, he didn't know it was possible to feel this terrible.
Glad we took that scrap to some other yards. We would have lost a good 130 pounds going to the one you suggested.
The big diesel chuckled.
I'll blow it out of your exhaust. Let's just hurry up and get the slug there before they change their mind.
The shunter stopped at the rusty engine's remains.
Look at this. He's gone. Surprised he lasted as long as he did, that useless kettle.
At least he won't complain anymore.
Not any more than his useless old body does already.
The Diesels cackled with laughter as they backed up to the train and coupled up. Oliver watched as they took Howard's rusty body away, laughing all the time. This had once been a living engine, and to hear them laugh at his demise like it was nothing, it made Oliver sick. Later, when Isabel and Toad had awoken, they asked if the Diesels had come back. Oliver took a deep breath.
They've already come and gone.
He said,
I didn't hear them come back.
Oh my.
Isabel whimpered.
Poor Howard. To be left with those brutes. He must be terrified.
Oliver sighed and stared out at the empty yard before him.
How terrified he must be, indeed.
As soon as night fell, Oliver's crew had returned. They hadn't found much coal, but they had found some. They quickly built up Oliver's fire and gave him plenty of steam. Slowly, Oliver clanked along through the bushes and weeds. His wheels squeaked as he rolled over the tracks the scrap train had been on. He saw pieces of melted metal lying amongst the weeds, their edges blackened by the cutter's torch and caked in brown rust. For a moment, he thought he saw an engine's lamp, its lens shattered. He gulped as he headed onto the main line, his fire flaring into life with determination.
And it covered.
Steady, boy. We need to go carefully.
His driver said, checking him.
I'll get to Sodor or bust.
Oliver said to himself.
I need to. For Howard.
Oliver rumbled over the points and off into the distance. Oliver now lives on Sodor. He made it to Barrow and Furnace before his coal gave out. Luckily, he was found and completed the final leg of the trip to Sodor thanks to Douglas. Now he, Isabel, and Toad work on the Little Western branch line with Duck and 3 more auto coaches. Since arriving, he's had many adventures and made many happy memories. When visitors ask about his past, only the version of his escape written down by the Reverend Audrey is told. None of his retellings include those 2 nights in that sighting, or of what happened there. Oliver, however, has reconciled with these memories, and the full horror has become softened to where telling his story of escape has become easier to talk about. Though sometimes when he's asleep, his mind drifts to the shadows of the past he keeps buried away. His dreams are then filled with the crystal clear sounds of diesel engines, pained screams, and the hiss of a cutter's torch.
Good one, guys. Until again, we will.